Welcome back. Airlines were hit hard by pandemic lockdowns, forced to furlough staff and run skeleton schedules. But as travel picked up again this spring, there were still lingering COVID rules to contend with and sky-high fuel costs. Meanwhile, some of that laid-off staff were nowhere to be found. No question, it is a time of challenge as well as opportunity for airlines. Michael Deluce is president and CEO of Porter Airlines. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda, for having me.
So what should be, of course, a reopening, getting back to kind of more normal volumes, you're actually reopening to some real challenges. And I want to start with the cost side of the equation because fuel is one of your biggest input costs, and it has been a challenge. How do you manage through that, Michael, with an airline like yours? What's your thought process about managing that inflationary pressure?
Yeah, and there is clearly a lot of pressures in the marketplace. You have labor pressure, and as well you have fuel pressure. We had suspended operations for 18 months during the depths of the pandemic and have been sort of sequentially rebuilding our capacity back up to effectively 100% capacity in the month of June, July, August of this year. So our focus has really been on delivering our schedule, delivering a high level of reliability, and really bringing customers back to Porter, and we've been very successful in doing that. Fuel costs are what they are. All industry players face that, but there's sort of bigger challenges in the industry as capacity recovers that, for us, it's actually a secondary focus right now.
And of course, one of the biggest challenges has been labor. How did that play out for you? We know that for many, that is still a big challenge, and it could be one that continues for a long time. How did Porter fare on that front?
So we actually fared extremely well. We did retain the vast majority of our team members, and some groups, such as our pilot group, 99% retention rate during the pandemic, which I think was a testament to our team and their commitment to Porter. So, since our relaunch in September 2021, we've had adequate staffing levels for the most part throughout the period. We did run into a few challenges on ground staff related issues back earlier this year, but they were quickly resolved. And today we're at a full head count, and we continue to hire new staff as we move towards our growth plans later on this year.
We, of course, have seen much publicized problems at some of the country's biggest airports. These massive snarls, staffing problems, long delays. Porter flies out of smaller locations, generally speaking. Has that been to your advantage? Are you finding that people may actually choose Porter in order to avoid some of the troubles they hear about at the big airports?
That's definitely there, an underlying part of our recovery. Porter operating out of Billy Bishop Airport does benefit from a fairly simplistic operation that is sort of easy to navigate as a traveler. There are sort of wider issues across the country. It's not just at Toronto Pearson, but at large airports that, really have resulted from, security and customs arrival staffing levels as a primary cause. Plus, on top of that, additional screening and security measures related to COVID, which the federal government has started recently pulling off, those requirements. So, it's a challenge out there, but airlines are very much in a rebuild mode, and traffic is booming.
Like every other industry, Michael, and frankly, every citizen in the world, the hope is that we're moving past a pandemic, but we don't yet know what the future holds. And the fall, of course, will be a test period. We're being warned by some to look for an upsurge again. From your business point of view, how worrisome is that when you think about COVID spiking even in a minor way?
That's always in the background, especially after what the world and certainly the airline industry went through the last 24 months. Today things are good, but that can change. And so flexibility and being nimble is critical as we navigate through this. We're hopeful that, the pandemic is largely behind us, but you're right. It has taken twists and turns over the last 2 years, and one can never take that for granted.
Michael, so good to have you with us. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Amanda.
Michael Deluce is president and CEO of Porter Airlines. Well, there is no doubt that for the hotel industry, the pandemic had a major impact. And now, of course, a host of challenges await. There are the labor issues, there are the cost issues, there's the change in delivery service that may well be just a fact of life as we look down the road. So what will this summer and beyond look like for this industry? Susie Grynol is president and CEO of the Hotel Industry Association of Canada. Great to have you with us, Susie.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start right there. I mean, huge challenges, obviously some relief in getting back to business. How close to normal do you expect this tourist season to be?
I think we'll get close to 2019 for this summer season on the leisure side. Where we're still lagging is on the business side, though, and that's the business traveler, that's the business events. We're still about 30% down for that segment and hoping to see some recovery there in the fall as businesses start to return people back to the offices, and hopefully we see governments do the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, the Zoom call has replaced the in-person meeting, and I guess the question is, how sticky is that? Is there a way the industry can lure that back as you look ahead? Will there be kind of marketing campaigns to try to persuade people to send folks on the road?
Things we learned during COVID. One of them is that people don't want to get married on Zoom. They don't want to have team meetings on Zoom. They don't want to close the deal on Zoom. So if anything, I think the need for that face-to-face interaction, business event or whether that is a personal event, has only gotten stronger. So, we're optimistic that that's gonna come back, because what we're seeing from the demand perspective is that it's very strong.
On the labor side, that was a big challenge, and there were, of course, some service delivery changes. Room service went away during the pandemic. I've noticed, just anecdotally, that some hotels seem to kind of like that, and their room service is much more limited than it used to be. I know it was never a big moneymaker, Susie, but will we ever get back to sort of the height of service that we used to get from hotels?
So when people travel in Canada this summer, they're going to have an amazing experience in a hotel. But you're right that some of the service experiences are changing, and that's being led by the consumer, in fact, because some people don't want someone in there cleaning their room. A lot of people are making their decisions based on sustainability considerations, and so they don't need their sheets washed every single night. And so we often are giving guests the option at check-in on what they want to happen in the room, whether they want it cleaned, whether they don't want it cleaned. Most are choosing not to have it cleaned during their stay, but we're also looking at different options like touchless check-ins, and the consumer is going to want different things in the future. Some want to have that white glove service, some don't want to interact with anyone.
And so I guess that will change the staffing mix in a helpful way, right? You probably don't need as many staff standing around ready to change sheets if fewer sheets are going to be changed. Is that welcome, given how tight it's been and how tight the labor market has been?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's a piece of it, but I would say that it's a fairly small piece. The shortage that we're experiencing in the tourism industry, tourism and hospitality sectors, is 400,000 people at the moment, and that's for the balance of 2022. To give you a perspective, that's about 2 to 3 times higher than any other sector. And so while there will be some shifts and some transitions to AI and some small changes on site, that's a pretty big systemic gap, and we won't be able to replace all of that with some of those changes. And so we are looking to partner with government to look at immigration as a solution, to open up, some of the thousands of applications that we have sitting at our borders right now. People want to come into Canada, want to work in our sector. So
I guess this is a tough one, but only a few seconds. If you have to forecast when you get back to pre-pandemic levels, is there a target for this for your industry?
The number on that depends, it's anywhere from 2024 to 2028, and that will depend on our ability to secure a workforce.
Susie, it is really great to have you with us. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Susie Grynol is President and CEO of the Hotel Industry Association of Canada. Coming up, the fabled Michelin Guide is finally coming to Canada. Will it be all it's cracked up to be? But first, this. You're forgiven if you hadn't heard of Hans Island until quite recently, despite the fact that the Arctic island has been the subject of a long dispute between Canada and Denmark. It was, as you might expect, the most polite of disputes. Which could lay claim to the outpost in the middle of the Nares Strait? The Solomon-like solution of drawing a line down the middle does give slightly more of Hans to the Danes, but let's not quibble. Observers say the island could become a tourist attraction. And if a 1.3-kilometer rock with nothing on it but a Canadian and Danish flag a few feet apart appeals, better put Hans on the list before it gets too crowded. We're back after this.